Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Sephra's Pop Culture Channel. Oh, oh my brain. Oh my brain. All right, let me give a bit of a preface here. I'm going to be talking about The Fanatic, starring John Travolta. But first, I want to say is that I'm ill. I have a fever. I'm delirious. I may not even make sense in this video. I don't know. Maybe it'll be my best video ever. Maybe it'll be a video as good as The Fanatic. I don't know. So I just want to say that. So when I watched The Fanatic last night on Netflix, I was on the couch sweating and shivering, throwing the comforter on and off, because I'm sick. There's something wrong with me. I'm super exhausted, feverish, headachy, all that crap. So I will say that to go back even further, well, actually, first I want to say, when getting ready to make this video, you see, I am not feeling well, but I have to do this. So I'm wearing quadrophenia, and I just happen to be wearing my quadrophenia shirt today for no reason. I just pulled it out, and that's what I'm wearing. And I was about to change my shirt to do this little review for you, but then I'm like, no, there's a lot of similarities between the story of Quadrophenia and the story of the Fanatic when you really think about it, or maybe you don't want to think about it at all. Because, Quadrophenia is about Jimmy, who in on the shirt he rides his GS scooter with his haircut neat and his wartime coat in the wind and sleet, right? And the story of Quadrophenia is about a teenager struggling with depression and anxiety, struggling to fit in with people. He's a fan of music like The Who. He's a fan of the style of dress is a very cultural English time. Like, it's the late 60s, so there's mods and rockers, which are, I guess, like musical gangs or whatever. Like they were movements in England, which we didn't really have here. We had other things here, like punks and whatever. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So Jimmy, has some mental illness, and he drives around on his scooter through the whole movie and singing all the songs. And Quadrophenia is my second favorite. But sometimes it's my number one favorite Who album. Sometimes it's my second, depending on how I'm feeling about Tommy any given day of the week. So, anyways, why that matters? Okay, well, I'll go add a little tiny bit more to my preamble. So John Travolta was at Fan Expo this year in Toronto, and he came for one day. And since I was running the Horror Writers Association booth, I couldn't really take a lot of time to see him, but I thought it would be, I went by his booth and caught a glimpse of him. And actually, I didn't even recognize him. I didn't even realize that was him. I thought it was a handler because he was bald, and I was looking for hair. Anyways, so then he was giving a speech or half-hour talk or whatever, but it's very far from the booth that I was running, so I only went and watched him for about 10 or 15 minutes. And I saw, like, when he came out at the beginning of his talk, and he talked about the Fanatic and how he had met Fred Durst, and they decided to make this movie. And he said it's a horror movie and it's about an obsessed fan. And then he talked about other things like flying his plane and, just life stuff. And then I had to leave. So, obviously the talk went on another half hour, maybe even hour. I don't know how long he actually stayed. I know Jeff Goldblum stayed 10 minutes for his talk. And then when Mark Hamill gives a talk, they practically have to drag him off by the end because he's so giving with his time. Um, but they're usually about an hour, just under an hour, because there's time, to get the rooms full and ready for the next, emptied and full for the next people, right? So anyway, they were showing the Fanatic at Fan Expo. I didn't go see it because I had other things to do, obviously. So last night in my fever-ish times, I saw the Fanatic was on Netflix. So I thought, oh, I'm going to check out this movie. I don't even know what to think about this movie. I don't know what to say. I watch a lot of 80s movie. I watch a lot of horror. Obviously, I'm a horror writer. I also have a very bizarre sense of humor. I laugh when I shouldn't. The Human Centipede movies are I love them. You know, I wasn't sure about the Fanatic at all. I'm still grappling. I posted on my Facebook about it. People are chiming in a bit with opinions. Now that I've seen it for myself, I've gone and read reviews, and it seems like a lot of the reviews I've read before I decided to hop on here, share kind of my opinion of like what's happening. I found it interesting. A lot of them, well, I guess it's obvious for those of us in pop culture that I really felt like it was a lot like Stan, which is one of Eminem's songs and an excellent song about fan obsession. And then another interesting thing is they've been running Just Shoot Me, the TV show. They've been running it endlessly, huge marathons. I think because David Spade has a new talk show, so they've been showing Just Shoot Me episodes endlessly, as long as Rules of Engagement endlessly. And so I've been watching a lot of the Just Shoot Me's because I haven't seen it since, it aired, and it was one of my favorite shows back in the day. Though it hasn't aged well in some respects, but it still makes me laugh. And so they had just done, I just watched that earlier that day, the episode where Mark Hamill is following David Spade around to show him like how annoying fans can be and how they ask stupid questions and get right off his back kind of thing, right? So I'd already kind of was in a fan obsession mood. And then myself being an obsessed fan, back when I was a teenager, in my bedroom, I had three walls that were full of Roger Daltrey and Who posters just plastered. And then my fourth wall was my homage to my other favorite movie stars. And so that corner was dedicated to Mark Hamill, Sean Cassidy, Willie Ames, Linda Carter, and John Travolta. So I've been a Travolta fan for a very, very long time, since I was a teenager, since he was a sweat hog, and that's what I loved him for, pictures of him as a sweat hog, right? So, well, for those of you young uns don't know what a sweat hog is, that's from a TV show called Welcome Back, Kotter, which I am positive would not age well at all. I am really sure we probably can't even watch that show anymore. But anyways, you want to talk stereotypes. So now, John Travolta in his talk was really excited. That he's saying how he's a celebrity, but he gets excited meeting celebrities too. And Mark Hamill says this as well. So, it shows they're human as well. So John Travolta was talking about, meeting Pitbull and Fred Durst and all these people. And he was so excited to be able to do how Pitbull had got him dancing again and used him in a video. And I think the video was just coming out around this time too. And then it's talking about Fred Durst and, hooking up to make this movie. And for those who don't know, Fred Durst is the main dude in Limp Bizkit, which is a big band. I love Limp Bizkit too. I listened to them all the time back when they were big. I don't have any other actual albums or DVDs, or I don't even know how we would do it anymore. You can stream them anytime in this modern world. So Limp Bizkit, yeah, they got some good stuff going on too. So. So this movie was, I think, it seems very obvious when you watch it that it must be based on experiences that John Travolta and Fred Durst and all their buddies have had with fans stalking them. So, to me that was, yeah, cool, fan stalk a movie, why not? This is good. I'm down with that, probably slasher movie or something, right? However, the minute it opens, you can see that this movie is not going to be what you think it is. Much like the news. No, anyway. Um, it opens with Travolta riding his little moped through the streets, which is why I showed you my Quadrophenia shirt at the beginning, because a lot how John Travolta's character, who is named Moose, gets around on his scooter or bike. And he drives it everywhere he goes, and we can see right from the first shot of his face that there is something wrong with him, or I don't know if you can say wrong with him. I have to be careful how I speak because I am, sympathetic and empathetic to people with special needs and learning disabilities and these sorts of things. And so this is where I have trouble dealing with this movie because it's very obvious that Moose is mentally challenged. I would say a lot of autism and other things happening. He has like the repetitious movements, maybe some Tourette's. He has his little rituals where the ear and tongue, which happens later on in a really gruesome scene. Not gruesome scene, but he does it later on with and I did laugh, and I shouldn't laugh, but I did because it was just so bizarre. So he has these tics and rituals and obsessions, and then of course um, with autism, if things are out of his routine or what he thinks gonna happen, he loses his shit, right? So um, yeah. So I saw, oh man, John Travolta, at least the 10 minutes I saw him speak, did not say anything about his character being a special needs person. I think John Travolta did a good job at it. I think. I don't know. The movie's so bizarre. So it definitely is takes aim at celebrities, fans, and just how Hollywood is a hellhole. They have his little paparazzi friend narrating it, but it's not consistent narration. She talks at the beginning, she talks now and again throughout. But is she telling the whole story? Who's telling the story? I don't know. So Fred Durst wrote this and direct this. Travolta and Durst produced it, and so on and so forth. So they're very much the creative and money people with this project, and they probably should have had someone who knows more about pacing and uh, editorial choices help them out. But it is entertaining. I will give it that. I just I just still don't know, because I'm sick, like sick as in physically sick, even though I guess I am a bit sick in the head too because I write horror. But I don't know what to do with this. It felt like a bit like Toxic Avenger or something, with the sense that this person is mentally challenged, and then they do all this stuff, and sometimes it's funny because they don't mean to do these things, and but really bad things happen. But then on the other hand, they do things that are like, and then you don't know whether to laugh or cry or scream or and it's uncomfortable because he is mentally challenged, and you do feel kind of for him when he's lines up to meet his favorite horror actor. I'm talking about not Toxic Avenger, but in in this movie. Um, oh my God, it is feels very 80s, but back in the 80s, it wasn't like 2019. Back in the 80s, they did make fun of uh, people with mental disabilities, race and sex and all that stuff. Like it was all, everything was out there. 60s, 70s, and 80s filmmaking. That they didn't have like kind of the moral boxes we have now, and so this is also what makes this movie uncomfortable. Because I think if it had been made in the 80s, it would be fitted. It would fit better in that era, and even saying, oh, it's a pastiche of an 80s movie doesn't help us in 2019 when we're supposed to be respectful of special needs and fans and obsessions and all these things, right? It's a different culture we're in now. And John Travolta's, I think, about my age. I think he's 5 or 10 years older than me. So, he should know this. But then again, he's in the Hollywood bubble. Fred Durst is in his celebrity bubble. So they don't really truly know how real fans feel, how real. Um, and as I was watching the movie last night, I kept saying to myself, this would be an excellent horror comedy if the main character wasn't mentally challenged. They could have made this movie with him not being mentally challenged, and it would have been friggin' hilarious black comedy. Like it would have been so funny. His obsessions and to me one of the favorite my favorite part of the movie, which I'm sure is everyone's, is when he finally gets to his one of his favorite actors' homes and he's like poking around, he's brushing his teeth with the guy's toothbrush, and then, then the guy takes the actor he's stalking takes sleeping pills and stuff, so he's like out when he falls asleep 'cause he's taking them with beer. So Travolta's like he falls asleep in a chair, and Travolta's character is sitting in a chair beside him while he sleeps, and then he's like touching him and taking selfies and. You know, that was good. I really liked that. That was friggin' hilarious. Then the alarm clock goes off, and then leaves, and um, then the guy runs into him down the road and yells at him because he's already found Travolta in his home several times, not inside his home, but around his place, and he already knew him from when the whole autograph thing that went wrong. And anyways, I got started at the beginning. So, like when we first meet John Travolta's character at the beginning of the movie, his very first line is, "I gotta poo." And he's on his way to the comic book store. He's in the comic book store, and he tells comic book dude he has to poo. Then they have an exchange about his favorite actors coming to the store and to get autographs and all that. And then Travolta buys like this vest that he wants the guy to sign and all that. Although it wasn't clear because they said, and this is why I've only seen it once. Maybe I should see it again, but it wasn't clear. But the guy says, the actor's only going to be signing copies of his book, but then he sells Travolta a jacket and tells him to bring it to get it signed. So I don't know what that was about. Anyways, so then Travolta has a run-in with another actor who he was trying to get an autograph, and that went bad. And then, so he had a few bad times with celebrities because he is awkward and stuff. And yet, then it's kind of juxtaposed. And in the hands of a more skilled filmmaker, it would have been really interesting how Moose is a performer on Hollywood Boulevard. He dresses up like an English Bobby and does the thing so tourists can take pictures with him, and that's how he makes his money. So he has his own fans, as it were. And they could have done a little more with that paradox, which I found very interesting, but they didn't pull it out as much as they could have. And then, of course, with Moose's job, he has a kind of a thing with an illusionist who drives nails through his head, and a magician type street performers, because there's a bunch of street performers, and the illusionist always hires people to pickpockets while they're watching his illusions, and he keeps bullying Moose to help him do that, and Moose won't do it. And of course, and in your head you're thinking, yeah, Moose won't do it because he's a cop, he's playing a cop, and so which shows he has a moral soul. He's actually a good boy at heart. He's just mentally challenged and doesn't understand boundaries, it seems. Whereas I think the illusionist thought it would be pretty funny that a cop would be pickpocketing people's money, and so that's sort of a little thing that goes. And it does thread through the whole movie. So they did keep up with that even by the end, when Moose. Oh, yeah. So the story goes through, and then so he's trying to meet this celebrity that he loves, a Hunter. So he goes to his book signing, but then something happens just when it's Moose's turn to get his book signed, and Hunter has to go out and talk to his ex-wife. And of course, Hunter's being your typical, well, I shouldn't, I'm just jaded in my own head, but Moose, the hunter was supposed to take care of his son that night, and he blew it off. And so the ex-wife is like, "Come on, like I count, it's your night, and I've got a date, and and God knows I've been through that." Um, and so he's just, "Oh no, it's okay. I'll take him twice as long, whatever." But meanwhile, the Moose doesn't understand all this family stuff because he's just focused on dude left when he's supposed to get his autograph, and he followed him out, so he's watching the whole exchange and all that, and all he wants is his damn autograph. But of course, Hunter's like all angry about the wife and the kid and all that. And so he wasn't kind to Moose at all. And to me, I didn't quite believe that because I think that if he is doing a signing and he's at this comic book store and Moose had said he was next in line, that he probably would have been a little more forgiving and brought him back in the store, even though Moose was aggressive, but he could also tell there's something not quite right with him, so he should have just been sympathetic. But so none of the characters are terribly sympathetic. Like Moose is sympathetic in a way, kind of, but not really. You don't really root for him. And one thing I liked about the character of Moose is that he does have different levels. You do feel empathy towards him because Travolta is a good actor, even though this movie, I don't know what this movie is. He is a good actor, so you can feel the compassion for Moose in a couple of scenes, especially near the end of the movie. You do get it, and he does portray the anger and the switching of moods, very very bipolar or triple polar or quadraphonic kind of mood swings and stuff like that. And yeah, so that kind of sets up that stuff. And then Moose hangs out or has a roommate. I'm not quite. I wasn't clear if Moose lives alone or lives with that paparazzi girl, if they're roommates or something. I'm in a fever dream, and I watched a few things last night. Um, so the paparazzi girl tells him about how there's an app you can download that shows you the stars' homes. Why she would tell a stalker this, I don't know, because she said, "Don't you be a stalker." But he already has been established as a stalker. She knows this. Like she's a stalker too, because she's a paparazzi. And so why she would give a mentally ill man who's obsessed with these celebrities, especially this Hunter dude, why she would give him his address. Well, download the app and then he has everyone's homes. And she says later on, "Oh, I thought you would just get a kick out of looking at the houses." But she should know if she's his friend for any length of time that he's gonna go there. And of course he does. And that's how other things happen. And someone gets killed. And I actually laughed because it was like, whoa, that was like, because it was an accident. It was like crazy. I'm like, whoa. I won't spoil it for you. Well, you're probably watching this because you've already seen the movie. But yeah, and then he, like I said, he goes there a few times, and so he does actually, does the selfie thing and watches him sleep and all that crazy stuff. But then, and near the end, okay, huge spoiler, the ending. So turn it off if you don't want, because it is a, you want to be surprised for the ending. So if you haven't seen it, turn me off. Um, so he, so Hunter shoots his hand because you could tell Hunter didn't want to kill him, but he shoots Moose's hand, so his fingers fly off. And then it's like you think that'd be good enough. And then, he's kicking him down the stairs to get him the hell out of his house. Um, and I thought that's good enough. Push him out into the street, and then who knows where we'll go next in this movie. But then, which I thought was very out of character for the Hunter character, though his name's Hunter, I guess. Um, he takes a knife he had promised to autograph for Moose if Moose would let him go. Because, oh yeah, that's right. So Moose had tied him up while he was sleeping. 'Cause, I told you they had set up. He does these sleeping pills. Like it did have the beats, right? Just the editing was a little. Anyways, so one of the times Hunter wakes up, he's all tied up, like in a Stephen King novel, Misery or whatever. I'm your favorite fan. It was a riff on that, which is hilarious. So he's all tied up in this bed with all these ropes and stuff. Hunter was, and you got Moose staring at him, and so he had to bribe Moose to let him free, and that was a really good scene. So that was cool. So a little homage to Stephen King there too, with the "I'm your biggest fan," and all that. And yeah, so then in a moment, Hunter manages to talk him into letting him go, and that's when he shoots him and all that, and then kicks him down the stairs. But then he takes the knife he was going to autograph for him and plunges it in his eye. Like, oh my God, it was so gross. I was like, ah, I know I watch horror movies, I know, but I can never deal with things like that. And it also was like he was already out the door pretty much, so I don't know why he had to stop, take it, and then blind him, like, and then he sits and cries, and Hunter sits and cries. He's horrified at what he's done, but then he's like, well, screw him, and kicks him out the door, kind of thing. And then so one of the last scenes we see is Moose kind of wandering around with like the half hand and the no eye coming back from the thing, and then everybody wants to take his picture because they think he's being a zombie or whatever on the boulevard. So I thought that was an excellent riff and tie back and call back to how Moose himself is kind of a little star on the boulevard, and makes his money impersonating. And so now they think he's a zombie and he's getting his picture taken and probably making more money than he ever made ever. And yeah, but it was odd. It was a very and at the beginning of the movie, because they show a lot of Hollywood signs, the Hollywood sign and Streets of Hollywood. So one scene they do have a big, you can't miss it. They're doing like a street shot, but the Scientology sign is right center frame. So I thought that was a fun nod to Scientology, since we know Travolta's a Scientologist. I'm not sure about Durst if he's one too. But anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool and interesting. But yeah, so. I have no idea. Once I'm over this fever and stuff, I will rethink this movie. Anyways, I don't know. I don't know. What did you think? Did you like it? Have you seen it? Was it crazy for you too? Anyways, have a good day, and yeah. Thanks for watching this far if you made it through. Bye.